Hello and welcome to the First Issue Club. We're your weekly comic book podcast where, just like Sue Storm, we love a good read. This is your non-AI driven comic book podcast. Nothing is meticulously planned. Nothing is laid out. There's no analytics telling us what you like or want. We are just having a conversation solely based on what interests us and what we care about in the comic book world. Vision is not part of this. Nimrod is not part of this. What are other famous comic book AIs?
Iron Lad.
Iron Lad. Not going to talk about him on this show. Get out of here, Iron Lad.
There's only one A and no I on this show. I'm the A. There's no I.
Period, folks. We're your podcast that covers first issues to let you know what are the good jumping on points, what are the freshest news stories that you should be interested in picking up in your shop, or maybe those that you can pass on. Not to say we're going to dunk on any books and say you should pass on them, but, you know, some books are for some people and other books aren't.
Yeah.
And we want to be your guides into finding the ones for you. There's a comic book for everybody.
Yep.
I truly believe that.
Uh-huh.
You don't have to like superheroes. It's a medium, just like television or movies. All the silver screen.
Yeah. Or John Edwards. It's a medium.
Right.
That was really good, right?
That was good. I appreciate your humor, Andy.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of, that's Andy.
Yep.
I'm Mike.
Uh-huh.
And we're Gregless today, who is our third co-host.
R.I.P.
Rest in power, King. It was good while it lasted. No, he's on a little road trip to old Oklahoma.
Woof.
So yeah, he's down there making sure that the 10 Commandments get appropriately read in public schools. And
That's
he's
right.
really made that his mission in life. And, you know, even though me and Andy don't necessarily agree with him, you know, we got to respect the religious beliefs of our friends and co-hosts.
We support all of his endeavors. We wish him the best. Why he went to Oklahoma to pursue that endeavor.
It was easiest. You start with the easiest one.
That's right. Low-hanging fruit, I suppose. That's right.
This podcast is brought to you by Space Camper Cosmic IPA. Not only are we drinking a couple cans of Space Camper Cosmic IPA, we're drinking big cans. This is 19.2 fluid ounces of the most delicious IPA you can get your dang taste buds on. So cheers, Andy. Thanks for bringing these space campies over. We are getting zooted to the moon over here while we're recording. So appreciate you, Boulevard, for making our show possible.
I thought the big cans were more fun than multiple small cans.
Yeah, I love it. And another great thing about this is, like, I can have my hand fully around it, and you can see that logo still popping up at the top. I mean, what smart sponsorship to create this can. Good on you. But they've thought of everything over at Boulevard Brewing Company.
They thought of putting good beer in a good can.
That's right.
Geniuses.
What else do you need?
They have the eye.
They have the eye of the A, of the aforementioned A.
Yeah. The A is for Andy, if that was unclear.
Right.
And the I is for intelligence.
Yep. Andy intelligence.
Yeah,
you don't
that's
have
not
the
here.
intelligence.
Correct.
Yeah, right. That was the whole joke before.
Now that we've explained.
Were you not following along to the bit? That was the bit.
Perfect.
Okay. That all being said, we're here to talk about comic books and comic book news. I will say comic book news this week was a bit hard to find because if you Googled comic books, the first thing you're seeing is 10 pages of news results about a sex trafficking ring busted at SDCC.
Yeah, I heard about this. I have not read anything about
have
it.
it.
I literally the only thing I read was sex trafficking ring busted at SDCC.
Yeah.
And I was like, I cannot get into this right now. I was not in a place where I could handle that.
I know. I think we've all had very stressful weeks recently. Some behind the scenes of First Issue Club. We've had a tough go at it lately, all of us individually for different reasons. And any negative news like that is sometimes hard to stomach, especially the world around us is crumbling. So
not even negative news. It's just like, that's too much to handle. Like,
yeah, right.
If it was like puppy found riding a unicorn, I'd be like, I can't process that right now. You know what I mean? Like, that's too much.
Yeah, I don't need any more stimulus. Period.
Yeah.
But as we're finding out, comic book conventions and these like massive gatherings where tons of people are coming together and traveling, it's maybe easier to mask moving people around.
Sure.
And you have predatory people who are scoping out other people to victimize because, just like I think I'm going to fire some shots at some exhibitors at conventions, but there's a lot of companies, I think, that go to cons and try to take advantage of young people who haven't found themselves or in an awkward place and are easily bullied and do some predatory recruitment at things like Comic-Cons. I think there are things that we're finding as I'm reading all these articles that's a strategy that sex traffickers use as well when it comes to these conventions and things like that. So This was a huge bust. They had a lot of officers acting as buyers and other roles within the sex trafficking industry. And when I say industry, this is like a huge problem with tons of people involved that like the numbers would like make you barf. But they arrested 14 people, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they saved. I read a lot of mixed reports on this, but 9 or 10 victims.
That's awesome.
So I mean, amazing stuff. You love to hear it. It's a drop in the bucket of the problem of sex trafficking, but like hearing that the law enforcement is becoming privy to these things and these strategies and finding ways to get that out of having people take advantage of our hobby we love and the fans and people we love and like get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Every once in a while, cops get it right.
Yep.
I mean, I'll give them kudos,
I think this was more probably FBI than it was.
Okay, so
police.
Every once in a while, the federal cops get it right.
Yeah, right. Fed cops.
Yeah. Let's see it through, right? Put those assholes in jail forever.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You love to hear that.
Yep.
There's nothing more disheartening to me than hearing that there is still slavery in the world, right? It's fucking 2024. The least we can do is like not force people to do things they don't want to do with the threat of physical violence or sexual violence.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that happened.
Totally. And yeah, it's sad that like so much of the focus of SDCC, I mean, there's so many great creative people and great creative storylines and things announced. And it's sad that like there's a little bit of a shadow over the weekend and conventions as like a destination thing because you're just thinking about like sex trafficking when you're like thinking about it now. But like you said, end result, terrible people got away and 9 or 10 victims' lives have been changed because of it. So that's the positive thing to look at.
I'll take a shitty headline that overshadows the next Marvel phase.
Yes.
Any day. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Completely.
If that's the outcome.
Completely.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, that's great. it just bums me out that like the reminder that still exists in the world bums me out so much. But it is great to hear, like, you have to focus on the positives, right? Or else the world's a terrible place. But it's great to hear that happened.
Yes. In more fun news, Marvel is putting out a tennis comic book that features some tennis stars.
Okay.
And I think it's like going out like at maybe both the Olympics and U.S. Open eventually. And I'm just interested to see the repercussions or fallout of that if collectors are going to want to get their hands on these comic books with tennis stars in them, or if that's something where we're just like, sports, I don't know.
Dude, if they rebooted NFL Super Pro,
yeah,
people would be all
people
over
would love NFL Super Pro. If you don't know what that is, Google it. Weird old comic, fun to find in like your dollar bins.
Also, US1, look it up.
So, have you been following the Olympics at all?
I have a little bit. Ledecky is a once in a fucking millennium swimmer.
She's awesome. Yeah, she's so cool.
I'm sure everybody in the world has seen this, but like the top 20 women's, 150 meter times?
Oh, yeah.
Are all her.
Yeah.
Like literally top to bottom.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely incredible. Pommel horse guy is like the nerd hero that electrical engineering students needed.
Yeah.
Like power to the nerds.
Yeah.
That dude fucking rips. The Turkish shooter guy.
Oh, I don't know if I know anything about this.
Oh man, it's great. So you've seen the professional shooting where they wear like all the gear and have like the glove and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, Turkish shooter guy gets up there. He's got no glasses on. He just like pulls out his gun, sticks his hand in his pocket, and gets like the silver medal. And he just looks like looks like a dude that walked out of the crowd and just like picked up a gun, and he was like,
"Can I play?
I can do this."
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah, flex.
The fact that the U.S. didn't medal in shooting is ridiculous, and it's probably because they didn't make the targets look like school children.
Oh, Andy. Poignant, but you hate to hear it.
Well, somebody's got to say it.
Yeah. We feel very passionate about this at our household. My wife is a teacher. Your wife's a teacher.
Yeah.
It's
fucking sucks.
Fucking sucks. There's so much fucked up stuff with school and gun control, and when people are like, "Give the teachers guns," fuck off.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into it. I'm just gonna get more pissed.
Yep. Same. So let's just take my bit, and we'll move on.
Sorry. Yeah.
They swam in the Seine for the first time in like 150 years or whatever.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was going to happen. There was so much controversy around that with like botulism being in the water, and I think I saw a thing that was like people in protest of that even happening were like polluting the water further.
By polluting, you mean straight up shitting in the river?
Yeah.
Yes.
to make a point that like you can't control what ends up in this just like channel.
Correct.
So like having an event in here is like not humane.
Yeah. But they did swim.
Yep.
They postponed one event already, but as of today, one of them. They did a swim in the river. It's too early to tell if anybody's going to get sick. There was one guy who threw up after getting out, but he claims it was not because of the river.
Just exhaustion.
But he also said the water tasted bad. So, who knows?
Ugh.
The Olympics are great. Watch the weird stuff. Wake up at 3 a.m. When I worked overnight shifts, we always had the Olympics on, and it's like,
yeah,
I've never been more into like sumo wrestling or the biathlon at the Winter Olympics is like my shit now.
We got one of those, like we did one of those crazy Peacock deals where they were like, get 12 months for $12 or something. So we were like, yeah, why not? And now that the Olympics are on, it's been great. I think the best way to watch them is Peacock does these amazing like recaps or consolidated versions of everything, so you can like get the gist and see all the highlights really quickly instead of like now that like they do it in a way on TV, on the actual broadcast, where they spread things out for so long. They show you like the first 20 minutes of like U.S. gymnastics stuff, and then they cut it up the middle, and they're like, when we come back, the finale of the gymnastics. And then like 3 hours later, you're like, where is Simone Biles? I'm going crazy. Like, you've said right after this, we're going to see more Simone Biles. That's what everybody is watching for. Like, show it to us. Like, the app is the Peacock has been so good at just being like, here are the highlights of this one thing. And since the basketball all happened, I'm a huge NBA fan. Mm-hmm. And since the basketball stuff happens during the day, it's been so fun to like watch the like when I'm done at work and I've finished all my emails, and like 9, 10 o'clock at night, I can just be like, oh yeah, that happened today, and watch some highlights. It's awesome.
I like the nonsense stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's the most fun.
Yeah, we're more like mainstream sports over here. We're watching all like the soccer and basketball and gymnastics.
No, man, I want to see the rings.
Yeah. Ring toss?
No, not the where they.
Oh yeah, that stuff's incredible. Yeah. So, odd tangent on a comic book podcast, but hey, some of these people are your real life superheroes. They're as close as it gets.
That's
with,
exactly
like,
right.
The crazy acrobatics and like the most elite of the elite in like human body performance, like, so inspiring stuff that I think is just like, it resonates with a lot of people. And I think comic book fans like seeing like the storylines and people achieve amazing things, like, just kind of resonates. So
totally.
I love the Olympics.
I read that Simone Biles can jump 12 feet in the air.
Yeah, they showed a thing when she was doing her floor routine the other day. I'll just keep nerding out on this. She did this jump that was just like, oh my gosh. I mean, she looks like she's like 4'11".
Yeah, she is. She's like 5'3".
And then it's like, you can jump like 3 times your height is like unbelievable.
Yeah. And she's got moves named after her in every major like floor event now or whatever. Like, literally a god among men.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So stinking cool. Any other comic book news or trends we want to cover? I'll say that we've done 2 Patreon episodes over this past week where we've talked about Deadpool and seeing that. So it's going to be full of spoilers. So, but if you've watched it, join us on the Patreon to hear what we thought of it. Spoiler, we liked it. Then we talked a lot more about SDCC and RDJ being announced as Vincent Von Doom and what that might mean or could end up being. We speculate on that a bit. So those conversations have been had in the world of First Issue Club. Just know that they're just for special patrons.
You gotta pay. You gotta pay the troll toll.
Pay to play.
Okay. No more news.
No more news. None that I have anyway. I'll let you know if anything occurs to me, though.
Okay, great. Feel free to interrupt me at any time.
Just wait.
Okay.
I'll take you up on that.
Okay, great.
All right.
You read something.
Yes.
I read a couple things.
Yes.
Are you feeling juiced?
I can go.
Go for it.
I never go first.
That's why I'm giving you the chance.
Yeah, all right. Wow, what an opportunity.
You only get one shot.
Do not lose your chance to move. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. I read X-Force #1.
Exciting.
As a part of the new line of X-Men comics. We're past the Krakoan era. We're rebooting all the famous titles that are the big money makers for Marvel and X-Men fandom. And of course, X-Force has to be one of those. It's been one ever since New Mutants ended.
Yep.
So, read that book. It was, let me tell you the gist of it before I get into too much of the details or takes. More or less, Forge is like the big centerpiece character of this.
Uh-huh.
And he creates a device wherein when issues are kind of arising around the world that could build into world-ending threats, like this device is alerting him to that, like really early on. And he's using X-Force as a tool to stomp out these threats before they get too big.
Aha.
And
makes sense.
That's kind of Forge's superpower. If you're not familiar with that character, he's able to like look at any problem and find a mechanical solution to it like immediately. And in this scenario, he's like tried to force himself to become a more Omega level mutant version of himself, which allows him to like foresee more problems or potential problems rather than just like touching something, seeing what's broken and finding the fix.
Okay.
He's got a little more like interesting foresight into that.
Okay. So this is his power has evolved kind of like who's the new mutant? His power is he can like speak every language.
Oh, Cypher.
Cypher.
Doug Ramsey.
Yeah, where he's like everybody kind of rolled their eyes at his thing and then they were like, isn't fighting a kind of language? And now he's like a super fighter and they're like, oh, he can speak binary and he can hack any computer.
Mm-hmm.
It's that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good parallel. The team itself is, like I said, Forge.
Mm-hmm.
Sage is sticking around.
Who is Sage?
So Sage was kind of like the man in the chair for the X-Force this last time around.
Okay.
And she's got very like, I would say Forge adjacent sort of powers where she can kind of like see all the scenarios and read the metrics of things. So she was a great like woman in the chair kind of character. And now she's back in the field.
And these characters' powers are different from Destiny.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not like a foresight or like future predicting thing. It's more of like a witness something, quickly put together like the things that need to happen to like end the threat.
Got it. Like Nicolas Cage in Knowing.
Yeah, right. It's like very like analytical power set.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, Tank is maybe the most interesting character of the lot.
I also don't know Tank.
Tank was a character I didn't know either. And Tank doesn't necessarily get explained or anything in this comic. He just shows up.
Excellent.
I looked it up. He made his first and only appearance in, some like Miles Morales adjacent adventure. Maybe like a Miss Marvel crossover or I can't nail down like what exact issue it was, but he showed up in a single issue, died the same issue in an obscure comic and has been plucked and like resurrected somehow and now has like a whole different look and feel. So how the Marvel fandom found out that this was even the same character, I've got no concept.
Dude, nerds will be all over that. Like, as soon as a book comes out, they're like, oh, first appearance.
Yeah,
2014.
Right. So everyone's buying this like weird, obscure book now. My favorite part's Betsy Braddock as Captain Britain. She still has that mantle. And then Ascani, and who is Rachel Summers.
Yes.
And then maybe Surge. Surge was on the cover of the comic in like X-Force outfit, but she just kind of like happens to run into X-Force out of happenstance in the first issue. And my assumption is she's going to like...
And she's Lady Electro.
Kind of...
She's got electric powers, right?
Join up, yes.
Okay.
Electric powers. As the name Surge might lead you to believe.
She does not have soda-based powers.
Surge!
She's not very extreme.
Yeah. Oh, I like it. It was a very difficult read. I felt intellectually challenged by this book, and not in a, God, who do I want to pull as an example? Not in like a Kieran Gillen sort of way, where you're like, oh man, this is like really heady, and I can go back and read it a second time, and like a lot of the like conversation that's happening is just like so dense that it's like takes a little bit to absorb and remember all the details of the book prior.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, there's no details from the book prior. This is the first issue of a new series. It's
Right.
not like dependent upon having known or experienced much about the Krakoan era. It reminds me maybe more of Steve Orlando, where a lot of Steve Orlando's first issues for me are maybe on a wavelength of like a lot of assumptions are made, or there's a lot left for like you to kind of fill in the blanks to understand the conversations that are being had. There's a little more like personal work you might need to put into it
Sure.
to follow along with the story.
Uh-huh.
And I've always found Steve Orlando's work challenging, not say like great. They sell tons of comics and like has been prolific in the last few years. So I'm not trying to knock the creator of X-Force or Steve Orlando, but they're creators that I personally just have like a little bit of a hiccup understanding exactly what's going on in the story, probably just because they're smarter than me and can allow like blanks to be filled in or let you fill in some blanks that I just like. In X-Force #1, I was having such a hard time filling in the blanks, and I went back and read it a second time and didn't feel like I necessarily gained more clarity on like what the purpose of the first like 2 scenes in the book were. And this might be something that like you need to invest a little more in subsequent issues where they like flash back to those and you're like, oh, now those make sense in context of the first. But when you're reading it as a singular first issue, you're like, I feel like this is trying to build a narrative that leads me to the end of this singular issue, and it might not have been that. So this book was difficult for me if you're somebody who's like, I'm an X head and have all the X details, and I still found this challenging. I think if you're like a Steve Orlando fan and love all the Scarlet Witch stuff he's been doing, like this writing style reminded me so much of Steve's, and big recommend if you're a Steve Orlando fan, I think.
Sometimes I think with first issues, like it sounds like this is, it feels like writers turn in like, this is my idea.
Yeah.
And it's like 96 pages.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And an editor has to be like, okay, we have to chop this, and you're going to insert a fight scene.
Yeah, right.
And that's going to be issue 1.
Yeah.
And then you know what I mean? Like, It's almost chopped up because your idea for your first issue is actually a 5-issue arc.
Yeah, right.
That you have to insert fight scenes into.
And I have such a hard time with this as a fan and like what comics as an art should be, because I think the majority of people in the long term who are reading these are probably going to read them in trade.
Yeah.
And as a long-standing like work of art, you probably want them to read better in the format that's going to be more long-standing, right?
True.
But at the same time, there is an art form to monthly solicitation and that arc of like building on things like one little bit at a time and making these things, even though they don't totally stand alone by themselves. It's like I can have the nugget and be like satiated or like have my footing. And
yeah,
it's a really tough quandary. If I was a creator and I had this like grand idea of the story I wanted to tell, and I was beholden to this medium that maybe didn't do the story I was trying to tell justice, would I say like, okay, it might not be better suited for like the 10,000 people who are gonna read it today, like the day it comes out.
Yeah.
But for the 50,000 people who are gonna absorb this in like the future of like Marvel Unlimited and trade publications and omnibuses eventually, like it should be a better experience for them. Like that might be a little more of the situation here.
Sure.
But
you can't get to trade number 2 without selling issue 2.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally. So just tough one for me personally to wrap my head around.
Yeah. Well, it's in my to read pile.
Yeah, you'll have to I would love for you to come back to the podcast.
Yeah.
And give a take on this, especially if you read it and like interpret it differently.
Yeah.
Because maybe I just like wasn't in the right headspace for what was happening, or I missed some like small detail that like didn't cascade or like didn't knot all the pieces together for me.
Check out next week's Patreon. I'll make that commitment.
All right. I love it.
And we'll have a rebuttal or agreement.
Yeah. And hey, I pre-order my comics like 4 months in advance.
Yeah.
So I am the proud owner of X-Force like 1 through 4 already, probably. Perfect. So I will be continuing to read this, and I want to update that too. I want to emphasize I don't like giving things like a bad review, and I don't want this to seem like that. I just had a hard time like totally absorbing what was happening in this one.
Totally. Well, next month when issue 2 and 3 or whatever comes in, you'll have to update everybody on where it goes.
We haven't done in a minute. Second issue club.
True.
Our little like sideshow.
True.
So we'll do that next month.
Damn. When's Greg out of town next time?
It's just his Andy and Mike specific show.
Well, all right. X-Force number 1.
X-Force number 1.
A challenge.
Sure.
So I read 3 issues. 2 of them are very, very old school, and one of them feels very old school.
Mm-hmm.
So I read, my Marvel book this week was Black Widow Venomous.
Yep.
By Erica Schultz.
And can I say, on our Patreon, we were just giving props to Marvel for sticking it out on storylines that often seem like stunt things to sell comics. They made the Black Widow character with a like Venom style symbiote almost a year ago now.
Oh, dude.
And I can't believe it's still a thing. It's like so cool.
And I'll tell you, if you haven't, pick up this issue.
Yeah. Because
it is so much fun.
Right on.
The whole issue is Black Widow, whatever, the MacGuffin, the framing device is she has to break into a place and steal a tube of virus that kills symbiotes.
Yeah.
Right? With her symbiote.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes and she does her spy thing, and her symbiote abandons her. It gets scared because it sees that they've got this virus and it freaks it out. So it leaves. So Black Widow she gets out there. She doesn't get the thing. She goes back. She regroups. And she says, okay, you need training. My symbiote needs training.
Oh, cool.
So they like do this mind meld thing. And they enter this red room.
Cool.
Inside
I love it.
Black Widow's mind.
Yeah.
And they like do a split thing, where the symbiote is like its own body.
Yeah.
And she is Black Widow. And they have this like fight scene. And then Black Widow like brings in people that she's worked with, like Bucky Barnes and Hawkeye, Jessica Drew, Agent Coulson, and Nick Fury, and has the symbiote like fight them and learn spy stuff from them in order to like, get
now
her.
We're both a super spy with the mental fortitude to get through these like high stakes problems together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're both individually capable, and together
that's cool.
We're that much more.
Yeah.
And she like designs a new outfit. She gives her symbiote a name.
Yeah.
It's now called Sliver.
Oh,
which is very like super
very
spy.
Venom.
Very Venom. And then at the end, of course, they work together and kill the big, bad guy and finally get the thing. And then the story will continue in Venom War.
Yeah.
Which is starting next week. And Schultz is writing Venom War Venomous, where Black Widow's going to team up with Agent Anti-Venom, who is Flash Thompson.
Yeah.
And like do Venom stuff. So
I love it.
It's almost like a single issue like training montage.
Yeah.
But it really gives you an idea of like like almost a level setting.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't been following Black Widow's story
Yep.
up to now, because she doesn't have a ongoing of
Yep.
her own, this kind of gives you an idea where she's at with her symbiote, with her new powers. It's very cool.
I love it. You better believe I pre-ordered this, so it's on the way for me. Big Black Widow fan, big Spider-Man universe fan. So
Erica Schultz fan.
Erica Schultz is so good,
Yeah.
and all of the like Hallows Eve stuff was killer.
Yeah.
So I'm stoked to read this comic. I know I'm gonna love it.
Yeah, totally.
And that cover's like fucking sick too.
It's so good. It screams. I'll show for the video people. It like kind of screams anime super spy.
Yeah.
But it works for like the direction that Black Widow's going, where she's like trying to be a nicer version of herself to this whatever creature that is bonded with her.
Yeah.
So
is that a Larry
I don't know.
cover? It looks like I'm not totally sure how to pronounce this person's name, but it looks like Leslie Larry.
Let's pop her open.
Larex or something. It ends with an X.
Yep, you got it.
Hey, all right.
Louis.
Yeah.
I would guess that's very French.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, it's very good.
Love
Very
her
fun.
style.
It really makes me excited for Venom War and for Venom War Venomous. So
It'll be fun.
yeah, it's gonna be good. And so for the old school stuff, I read Flash Gordon #1.
These are automatic skips for me every single time.
I know. You're not like an IP guy.
Yeah.
In comics.
Sure.
I have kind of a soft spot for these like old 30s and 40s characters. Every time I see like Turok is my dude.
Yeah.
Or the Phantom.
Yeah, sure.
Or like any of those guys show up.
Yep.
Those old Gold Key guys. I've got to pick it up.
This is on Mad Cave.
It's on Mad Cave. Mad Cave has the Flash Gordon IP and Dick Tracy.
Yeah,
Like
wild.
They kind of scored this year.
Dick Tracy was just recently on like IDW maybe, or like it was either Dark Horse or IDW.
Yeah.
There's a section in my comic shop where they have like IDW and Dark Horse next to each other.
Oh, God.
So I'm always
it's so they can just slide it over whenever the IP rights.
Yeah.
Right? Put Dynamite right there and you can just
right.
like rotate.
Just rotate them, yeah.
So Flash Gordon, there was a 0 issue that came out for Free Comic Book Day that sets this up. Mad Cave generously put a QR code in the front of this that gives you a free PDF version of that 0 story.
Oh, that's great.
So you can straight up read it with no introduction.
Yeah.
But this starts with Flash and he's in a prison. Doesn't really know how he got there, knows he needs to escape and rescue Dane, his girlfriend, Dane. He does so in heroic fashion, befriends a little buddy who helps him out.
Okay.
It is just very much a straightforward throwback to old school Flash Gordon comics.
Yeah.
Very space opera-y, very shiny, happy hero.
Yeah.
It does the modern comic thing of like beating him up and he doesn't always win, which is always nice to see.
Yeah.
But you read these books for the same reason you read Superman books, where like the good guy is good, bad guy is bad, right?
Yeah.
I don't need the challenging, like, what if Flash Gordon beat his wife? Like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But it's very fun, honestly.
If Tom King got his hands on Flash Gordon would be like running for Senate or
Oh my God. Yeah, yep. His war crimes would be brought up.
Yeah, right.
Like,
exactly right.
That's Strange Adventures. It's
a lot
basically
like Strange Adventures. I mean, the character in Strange Adventures is like a Flash Gordon comp.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And that's not this.
Yeah.
It's very lighthearted. I was expecting this to be like a $5 book. It was $3.99.
Yep.
If you're looking for I don't know, I'll say like a Star Wars-y kind of space opera thing that you don't have to like invest a lot of brain cells into.
Yeah.
You can kind of kick back and enjoy it.
Well, I'll say that is kind of a problem now with all the Star Wars comics, is that they've built so much world in the comic universe
Yeah.
that you would like to think as a casual fan of like the movies that you'd be like, oh, I know Return of the Jedi. In this comic, the new Star Wars comics that are coming out take place after Return of the Jedi, I think.
Yes.
And you would think like, oh, I've seen that movie. I can like understand these as a new jumping on point. I'm willing to bet, and as good as those comic books are, they probably carry a lot of the baggage of a lot of the things that have happened across like 6 different Star Wars comics over the last like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
Like those comics are a universe of themselves that, even though it's on Marvel, kind of like sits and stands alone as like its own little publishing imprint feeling world.
Yeah.
And can be very hard to follow. So nice to have stuff that you're, if you think tonally,
Yeah.
it feels like that kind of like fun space opera, soap opera-y kind of space adventure thing.
And it totally does. It gives you all the knowledge you need. I didn't know Flash Gordon's girlfriend's name or the name of the bad guy going into this, but bad guy is bad, good guy is good.
Yep.
There's a twist at the end that like makes me invested in the story.
Okay.
So I would say at the minimum, this is like good for a 5-issue arc.
Yeah.
That you tuck in and whatever. If not, pick up the ongoing. So Flash Gordon #1.
All right. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Great. 2 thumbs up from Andy.
Who's got 2 thumbs and recommends Flash Gordon?
Will we have a third?
Big time.
Hey.
So this is the new EC Comics.
Oh,
Epitaphs from the Abyss.
Shiny foily cover,
Shiny foily cover. Spent the extra $1.
Ooh, la-ti-da.
And this book rips.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. In classic EC horror comics fashion, it's a collection of shorts.
Yeah.
3 or 4 stories hosted by the Gravedigger right at the front. And I mean, that's it. That's all you need to know. Like, I don't need to go through the individual stories to tell you they're good, but I'll give you the writers: Brian Azzarello, Chris Condon, Jorge Fornes, Phil Hester, Peter Krause, Stephanie Phillips.
Great creators.
It's stacked.
Yeah.
Next month, Jason Aaron and Chris Condon come back to write some stories. If you are a horror fan,
when did this come out?
What? This book?
This book.
This week.
It was this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least it was new on the shelf this week.
Okay. Greg covered a book a lot like this.
Are you
a week or so ago? What was that?
Oh, was it? Well, EC is coming back and they're introducing multiple lines.
Oh, maybe he read a different EC line.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
that might have been what it was.
Yeah. So like next week their sci-fi fantasy book is coming out.
Okay.
And I'll probably be covering that too.
Yeah.
But all these books are going to be collections of, shorts. You kind of have to have no knowledge going in.
Yep.
But the creative teams that they got are like positively stacked.
Yep. Very Twilight Zone-y, kind of like mini mind fucks that you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
Afterwards.
Well, and they read like you can see the end coming, but like it's the how they get there that puts a smile on your face.
Yeah, totally.
It's like watching a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, right?
Yeah.
I know every one of those teens is going to have sex with the other one and they're going to die. But
we're going to do all the tropes to get there.
Yeah, but how do they die, right? That's
right.
what you go to see, right? And that's exactly what you get here. I had a blast reading this book. I am definitely going to be picking up all the EC Comics stuff.
Yeah.
At least the first issues, just to see what happens.
Yeah. I love, obviously, huge collection of comics, as you can see if you're watching the video around me. We're getting ever and ever closer to that 10,000 comics mark.
Whoop, whoop.
So I love the history of comics and all that stuff. And Taschen is that company that makes just like the massive art books that are like beautiful.
Less book, more tome.
Yeah,
right.
They're like 20-pound books that are just huge. I bought the History of EC Comics book, and it is so stinking cool. And you really get, through EC Comics, you really get like a history of comics as a whole. Like
as a medium, yeah.
Yeah, they're so like instrumental to like modern pop comics and are tied directly into the origin of DC Comics, and when some of those people splintered off and started their own things, like EC was kind of like one of the next iterations. And for how big of a publisher they were at the dawn of the comic book, they've kind of been lost in the modern conversation until recently, with a lot of like big comic book fans trying to like bring back the legend of EC Comics. Yeah, they're a huge player that it's like a shame that a lot of us don't have all the context for their history and what happened and their contribution to comic books. The Taschen books are too expensive for 99% of people.
Yeah.
I have it. It's too expensive for me. What I recommend you do is join the Taschen mailing list, because they do a sale twice a year.
Yeah.
And in that sale, they do like display books that maybe have been like sitting out in one of their flagship stores or something like that. And they are like 50% off or more, which these books are like $200 books.
Yeah.
So you can get like, I bought my like Taschen book for like $75 or $100 instead of $200. And it's gorgeous. It's a showpiece. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
You can't fit it on a shelf. So wherever you end up finding a place to put it, it's just like such a cool conversation piece, and has beautiful, massive art printed in it in like high quality scans, a cover gallery of like all the covers from 1933 to 1956.
It's wild.
And just like such an amazing history of EC, which encompasses the history of comics in general. Yeah. So really cool read, and big recommend on that book.
Along that same lines, something that I thought was a very cool is they listed all the creators that contributed to EC that are no longer with us, right? Mm-hmm. In a big 2-page spread right at the end.
Yep.
Just a list of names.
Yep. And you see pictures of the Gaines there.
Yeah.
Which, what is it? The father Gaines, Max Gaines,
yep,
is kind of like one of the godfathers of comic books, and died really tragically, and passed the company onto his son. And this was in a state where it almost folded, and his son was like a kind of punk rock, alternate culture sort of person.
Yeah.
And is like, there's a lot of history about his dad like never believing in him or thinking he was a loser. And then his kind of like punk rock mentality turned EC Comics into what we really like know and love about EC Comics, like creating these things that were tonally like a Mad magazine, and those early iterations of Mad that became like one of the only tonal things, like pop culture things, that buoyed comics for a while there.
Yeah.
When like superheroes were out of vogue, and then all these like messed up horror stories, and finding like weird, cool artists and doing like interesting things, and creating like obviously the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah. That
became like such a cultural icon in the 90s. So yeah, I can't emphasize enough how cool the history of EC is.
Yeah. Well, and so this is published by Oni. So
I didn't know that either. Okay.
Yeah, my guess is that EC is now like an Oni imprint of some variety,
sure.
or they have a team up with Oni and some variety. But I think just having a double page spread that has all those creators listed in the back really goes to show how much of a like labor of love this book really is for the people that are working on it.
And how much the people who work on it care about the history of comic books and find a romance in that. Obviously, these sort of things like wouldn't happen if people didn't have like a nostalgia or romance in their mind for the way that comics were or the origin of comics.
Yeah.
And it's cool when you can pay homage to these things and do it in a way that like isn't corny or like modernizes it enough while still being like in the form of EC, which is I think a testament to what EC created and became popular for, that like maybe it fell out of vogue but kind of came back in fashion recently with things like Ice Cream Man.
Totally.
And oh God, there's been so many copycat books of like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then like what is another good one? Silver Coin was so stinking good.
Mm-hmm.
And all these books are kind of in the fashion of old EC comics. So to have this book come back directly and have an EC logo on it, I think is so fucking great.
Well, and that they went with the old like
pre-code horror.
Yeah, the whatever the cover style you want to say, like it's just so great. Epitaphs from the Abyss is like, not only is that like such an EC title, but like you slap that on James Tynion presents Epitaphs from the Abyss is like definitely the next
it's like automatic
Something is Killing the Children spinoff, you know, like so I'm just over the moon that this like not only happened, but that it was such high quality and such a lovingly presented homage to what came before. I hope this succeeds. So,
I got carried away with nerding out there.
Dude, it's good stuff. It really is. Did you put any of them on your poll?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
That'll be a while before I get them, but
yeah.
Stinking Unknown Comics, as great as your deals are, I gotta wait. You make me wait. I don't have any of my comics from like April even.
Yikes.
Yeah. They take a long time to ship you your stuff.
Oh, man.
It's brutal.
I would say you're still a Wednesday warrior at heart.
Yeah.
But man, I'd be twitching.
It is tough, but when I see like just the sales they have for pre-orders are so tough to beat, and then they throw in like giveaways that are like great like they did this like spot foil Psylocke giveaway and a spot foil Magic giveaway that you could only get when you ordered like a certain amount of money on their site, which you can really only attain by like doing all your pre-orders through them. So there are these like incentives and rewards for like sticking with them that kind of pay off, because that Psylocke book sells for like $40 on eBay.
Yeah.
And
when did you sell yours?
I have. I'm
okay.
I'm keeping it. So it does not matter. You're right. Point taken.
My wife did that to me this week because I was like, "Oh man, what was it? My first Red Hulk is really shooting up in price." And she was like, "When are you selling that?"
Exact same thing happened with my wife this week, and because of the Robert Downey Jr. announcement.
That was it. Yeah.
I had a first appearance of Tony Stark as Dr. Doom, which was before like a $2 book if I was lucky.
Yeah.
And is now going for like $200.
Is it that What If book?
No, it's not the What If one. This is like the infamous Iron Man #1, which is like a little more of like the canonical version.
Yeah. I have the What If and infamous Iron Man.
Do you really? Yeah. There's like so many like versions that were just like going off the fucking chain this past week. And so like I looked at it accumulatively and was like, okay, these were all the books that I own that were like last week $2 books. Mm-hmm. And then I added them up, and the cover price, like fair market value for each of them, added up to like $500.
Yeah.
And it was just like, we just turned $10 worth of comics into $500, babe. And she's just like, did you so you're selling them? And I was just like, no.
Why would I sell?
These are my treasures. They'll be worth jack shit next week when like the hype dies down, but like hey, it's fun in the moment.
I know.
I have to share it with somebody.
I know. Cuz my conversation was, "Oh man, I have this book. I just got to go dig it out." And she was like, "You say that every time."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yes, I do." And it's your job as my wife to be like, "That's amazing."
Yeah. I need to buy more top loaders.
Sure.
If you want to go in on a top loader order, just let me know.
Okay.
My problem with all of these things, if you can indulge me for a minute longer to extend the episode.
Okay.
There are things in the collecting hobby that are such an easier pill to swallow when you have comic book friends locally.
Oh yeah.
Because I can order like 20 short boxes at once, and then they will be like less than $5 each.
Yeah.
Or you can order like 2 at a time on Amazon, and you'll
for $10 a piece.
More.
Yeah.
Like $15 a piece for a cardboard box. And like, so the way to order these things is ordering in bulk, but it's just a tough pill to swallow to like spend all that money and have like 20 short boxes you're just going to store forever.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for the top loaders, where if you order like 50 of them at once, you're paying a fraction of, like, people charge like $8 for like a single top loader.
Yeah.
Right? But if you order like 50 of them, you're paying like $1 or $2 a piece, but then you're spending between $50 and $100 on just top loaders, right? But I feel I like have to buy that way because I'm like, I will refuse to spend like $10 on one thing that should cost like $1.
It's getting to the point where I am having a tough time justifying bags and boards.
Yeah.
I bought them today.
Mm-hmm.
Boards were $16.75.
That's brutal.
Bags were $6.75.
Yeah. Got to order those in bulk.
It kills me.
I order 500 boards at a time.
That's what I should be doing. But I'm an idiot.
I'm like, I'll use them.
Yeah.
I've been buying comic books since I was 10.
Right. Yeah.
I will eventually have, but so many of the books that, since I do mostly online now, so many things come bagged and boarded already that like so some of my storage stuff now is just kind of sitting around. But, Andy, always down to collaborate on a comic book purchase with you when it comes to supplies and stuff.
Done.
It's one of the fantastic benefits of local comic friends.
And it's way easier to tell my wife what I spent on those things as opposed to like the box showing up on my porch and it's like a box like this and she's like, what's in there? And I'm like, 10 other smaller cardboard boxes that I spent $70 on.
I'm about to buy 5 graded comic boxes.
Oh,
I probably only need like 2 or 3, but again, it's like if I buy 2, I'm about spending the same price as like 5.
Yeah.
So I might as well do like the bulk order.
Sure.
So if you need something for top loaders or graded comics or magazine stuff.
I do need a magazine box.
So you can use, I think, the graded comics. I'll double check.
Okay.
But I think the graded comic boxes can kind of like double serve as like a magazine box.
That would be great. Because
at
I've
least
only got like 10 graded books.
Yeah. They're just like taller.
Yeah. Sick. It pays to have friends.
Hell yeah, it does.
And you're all our friends. And
yeah, come. I always say this: if you want more comic book friends, join us on our First Issue Club Discord.
Yes.
We've met so many cool people that like that way that like even though like we don't get to like meet in person and hang out, these are people I chat with every single week.
Yeah.
And I feel like my comic life is so enriched by having this First Issue Club Discord. And like that's the thing that I'm like most proud of about First Issue Club is that it's like connected me selfishly with other people who have like really common interests.
Yeah.
And it's like some of the people who've joined the Discord, it's connected them with other people with common interests who they like wouldn't have met otherwise without like this connection. And like our Discord is just so fucking cool. So if you haven't joined it yet and you just like want more people to shoot the shit about comic books with, it's like my favorite thing in the world to have this Discord. And like
Totally.
I message people on it all the time when I think of like anytime I'm watching like Seattle sport or like one of the teams I'm watching is playing a Seattle team, I'm always like messaging Joe and being like, check it out, I'm at a Seattle game. and you know, everybody else on the Discord I've got like some sort of like personal relationship with or thing in common. That's just like great to have more comic book friends.
Yeah.
So,
well, and there's talk outside the comic book realm too. Comics is what brings us together, but it's not exclusively our lives.
There's a wrestling chat, there's gaming chats, like movies,
all
like,
kinds of stuff.
all kinds of fun stuff that just like-minded people are finding on there.
So come hang out with us on the Discord. It's a great time. Join us on our Patreon. We've got 2 tiers, $1 and $3.99.
Yeah.
We do an extra show basically every week.
We try.
Unless
life gets in the way.
Unless we all lose our minds and our cars shit out all at the same time. You know, it happens every once in a while. We try not to take it too seriously, but it's consistent. I'll say that.
Yeah.
It's consistent.
Yes.
What else do we have coming up? It's August. That means TowerCon at the end of the month.
Oh, yeah. We haven't mentioned that in a while.
30 days counting down to the next TowerCon.
So we'll be at TowerCon, which is our favorite mini convention in Kansas City. It is a comic book convention at a bar.
Yeah.
A bar that has amazing food and is like in a really fun little part of Kansas City. And then we normally go and they set up a little table where we have like some free stickers and stuff, and then we record a quick little podcast. It's not like a show, like you're not going to watch us record, but we just like kind of buy some stuff, talk about what we bought, do like a mini episode for the Patreon while we're there. And it's just fun to like be there and be a part of it and do the thing and support comics and cool people.
I really want to go all out for this one because it'll probably be my last one before it's baby time.
Yes.
So it might be like my last comic book hurrah
for quite a minute
before I have to lock down. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Obviously, if you're in the Kansas City area, come out, come say hello. If you're not in the Kansas City area, let us know on Discord what books you're looking for, and we'll find them for you and send them to you.
Yeah, we have an ISO channel.
Yeah.
So
do we?
Yeah, we do.
Dude.
There's an ISO thread that, you know, we don't use too often, but
hell yeah.
I've had our buddy Dark Knight hooked me up with a comic that just completely sold out in Kansas City, but was just like on the shelves at his shop. And I swear I've had a package for him to send back for like probably 6 months now.
Hey.
I've just like never sent. So I owe you a care package, Dark Knight.
Yeah. Well, and shout out to NJD.
Yeah.
At the Geekery, who's hooked me up with a couple of books, real gems. Anyway.
Our favorite comic shop we've never been to.
That's right. So thanks for being here. Check us out on all those other channels. We're post videos on YouTube. And we'll see you next week?
Yep. See you next week.
All right. Bye.
First Issue Club podcast is brought to you by Boulevard Brewing Company, the people responsible for our favorite drinks, the Space Camper Cosmic IPA family of beers. Our show is edited and produced by our hosts Mike DeStacy, Greg Lichtig, and Andy Vargas. You can find us on social media at First Issue Club, and you can join the supporters who keep our humble podcast going on our Patreon at patreon.com/firstissueclub.